So I am here, and we are here, and we are live talking about numerology tonight, and I am so excited. I hope you're excited too. I've been preparing to teach this class for months, really. Sorry for the little show I'm putting on down here. Trying not to distract you. I've been preparing to teach this class to you for months, and so tonight is the night. I am so glad to see you. It's going to be really exciting, and I'm actually going to start not by talking about the numbers. I'm going to start by talking about. I know you guys are very generous. I'm actually going to start by talking about something else to kick us off and to sort of set the stage, create some context for our conversation tonight around numerology. Sorry, bear with me. I have to do one more thing really quick. Sometimes the room isn't quite ready for me, so I have to do a couple of things. Thank you for your patience. Hold on just a second. Okay. The time has come. So the only thing you need to have coming into tonight's class is you need to have your birthday. If you have that information, you have everything that you need in order to enjoy the experience that you're about to have. So if you know the month, the date, and the year of your birthday, you are about to learn more about yourself than you have probably known before. And even if you have taken classes in numerology, even if you've already gone down this particular road, I'm hoping to offer you something that maybe you didn't hear before. Some new piece of wisdom or some new piece of information that will be useful or interesting to you. So hopefully tonight is just going to be kind of the start of a whole exploration for you into this part of your, what I call your personal profile. And your personal profile includes your numerology. Happy birthday, Linda. Her birthday's tomorrow. But your personal profile includes numerology. It includes astrology. And then what I want to teach you tonight is about correspondences, okay? Because everything in the magical world communicates to each other. That's what keeps me excited about this work and engaged in this work and passionate about this work for as long as I've been doing it, which is honestly at this point almost as long as I've been alive. But I still, every time I meet someone new, or when my children were born, one of the first things I did was to look at their astrological profile and their numerological profile. Now, a lot of you are asking about the link. My team put the link in every one of our classroom Facebook groups, our Holistic Healer group, Arrow Magic, GemWise, and Magical Sabbatical, and it has been pinned there since I think around 2 or 3 this afternoon. So if you're having trouble finding it, you just have to go back to your Facebook group and you have to find the link, and it is the pinned post in every one of those groups. So like I said, it's been up for about, I want to say almost 3 hours now. So if you didn't find the link, or you couldn't find the link, or you've got people emailing you, just let them know. If they are in the groups, they've got it. It's right under their nose. It's actually the pinned post in all of those groups. And I just checked the groups, and it is pinned. So if something happened, I'm not sure, but from our side, it is pinned in all of those groups, and just make sure everybody knows that, okay? All right, cool. So since we've kind of laid the groundwork for where we are and what we're doing, I want to welcome you. So this is our first numerology class. It may not be our last. I want to talk a little bit about what numerology is, why numbers are so significant, and I want to talk a little bit about what we call the hero's journey. And what I mean by the hero's journey is actually a concept that originated with Joseph Campbell, who is Joseph Campbell is a mythologist and a historian, and he is no longer with us, but he is one of the most influential thinkers in terms of my own personal development, my own personal learning, my own personal spiritual growth. If you haven't read anything by Joseph Campbell, I would really love to recommend that you go and just look at 1 or 2 of his books. The Hero with 1,000 Faces, like if I was going to point you in one direction to choose one book to start with, I would choose Hero with 1,000 Faces. And I'm going to briefly talk to you about the hero's journey tonight before we launch into numerology. But before I even do that, I'm going to smudge. And I want to invite you just to take a moment to release any energy of the day that isn't serving you. Call your energy and yourself into present time. Even before we begin a class, I like to clear energy, call my energy in, and just allow my central nervous system to become calm and centered. What I learned from being a professor for a long time, and I was a university professor for about 11 years before I launched Sage Goddess. What I learned as a teacher was you have to become ready to learn. Not every student comes to class ready to learn. And so in order to become ready to learn, you need to be present, you need to be focused and mindful, you need to be thinking about what you are expecting out of the learning experience, and also be ready to participate and ask questions. So the smudging process, even though it's a magical process and a metaphysical process, I think actually prepares us to learn. It prepares us to receive wisdom and to be mindful and present for the experience that we're about to have. I also believe each one of us has spirit guides that come to us when we are learning. I call them the learning guides. And so I want to call upon, so good to see you guys, I want to call upon all of our learning guides tonight and my teaching guides to make sure that I am providing you with the information that you need, and to ensure that you are ready to receive it in a way that's going to resonate with you. Amen, aho, and so it is, right? Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I have to say, teaching and learning are my passions. I really believe that the more you know, the more rich your life becomes. When I think of what prosperity means to me, or what abundance means to me, the most important form of prosperity in my world is prosperity of wisdom. Now, that may sound incredibly ironic given who I am, and my name is Athena, and I'm named after the goddess of wisdom, so maybe that's why I feel it. Maybe it's because I'm a 3710. Which is the numerological profile of the scholar. 3710 actually is the only numerological profile that indicates a life of scholarly activity. And I have to say, when I learned that, it was another one of those like aha moments, you know, where the light bulb goes off. Because I just thought to myself, how incredible that my numerological profile actually was a little bit of a window into my future. It was a little bit of a window into why I might be here and the work that I'm meant to be doing in this lifetime. And so what I'm hoping tonight, Kelly's at 3710 too. I bet there's quite a few of you who are. Sharon is. Does that resonate with you guys? Beth and Sharon and Kelly, do you feel like you also have a scholar profile? And all that means is that you like to collect wisdom. Whereas some people like to collect things, I like to collect knowledge. I speak and read and write many languages, including dead languages like Latin. And one of the reasons I spent years of my life in college, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in comparative literature. And so it was a requisite of those early academic programs to learn multiple languages. I couldn't get enough, you know, and so that's part of what we want to look at tonight is, what does your numerological profile mean for you? And not just for you, but what does it mean for you in relationship? What does it mean for you as a parent? What does it mean for you as a partner? What does it mean for you as an employer or as an employee, right? I mean, I often think about balance when it comes to numerology and astrology, because one of my goals is to make sure that I look organizationally, I look at my life, I look at my family, and try to see where balance, you know, resides, where we might have good balance between certain qualities or characteristics, and then where we have gaps, perhaps, right? Like maybe where something is missing. And so I'll share with you, if you want to hear toward the end, kind of what my family's complete profile looks like. And we do have some gaps, but we also really complement each other nicely. And so when you know everybody's numerological profile, you can anticipate where there might be challenges, and you can preempt them sometimes. So I'm going to start from the beginning once we begin, but I want to start with the idea of the hero's journey. So Joseph Campbell coined that phrase, the hero's journey, and he coined a term, the monomyth, okay? And according to Joseph Campbell, there aren't actually a lot of stories in the universe, okay? There's actually one story, one narrative, and that narrative is so prevalent that it's been inflected. It has been used and placed in almost every country and in almost every time period. And that story is about the battle between light and dark, between good and evil. That is the monomyth. And he talks about it. It's actually really fun when he talks about it, because I'm going to move my incense burner for just a second because it's drying my throat. Hold on. Sometimes too much incense is a bad thing, but I want to make sure that my voice stays nice and clear for you for the duration of our session. So he talks about Star Wars, and I think about Lord of the Rings as two examples. I'm so sorry about that. Two examples. Gives me a chance to fix my bra. It's like a strip show. I wasn't trying to do that. I literally was like.
I think that's how you started the show, right? That's how you started the class. Everyone was excited.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry.
They all say yay. Can they see it?
Okay. I'm rearranging again. Okay. I'm back. So I'm a trooper. My incense that was burning actually closed off my airway. So I couldn't breathe for the last 3 minutes or so. I'm back. And we are going to do this because I've been excited about this all day. So I've had some water and I think I'm going to be okay. Literally, my airway started to close. So boobs and all, I'm back, and we're going to do this tonight. You ready? Can we do a do-over? I'm going to start again. Ready? Hi everyone, and welcome to Numerology. I am so excited because I really believe that what I'm going to teach you tonight is going to improve and enhance your life. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be here. I really think this is so important for you to have and so important for you to know. And so thank you for your patience while we did a little reboot. And I am here and all is well. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about numerology. We're going to talk about astrology a little bit. We're actually going to talk about runes tonight. We're going to talk about essential oils tonight. We're going to talk about gemstones tonight. We're going to talk about metals and alchemy. We're going to talk about the hero's journey and what Joseph Campbell referred to as the monomyth, because all of it's related. In my life, I will tell you, in my life, I've never had anybody connect all the dots the way I'm going to for you tonight. Now, maybe you have, but this has really been a lifelong passion for me and a lifelong process of trying to gather this information and put it together, which is what I always try to do, gather complex information and put it together in a way that is easy to understand in a certain way, but also will help you see the connections. Magic is nothing more really than a series of correspondences. Magic is acknowledging and recognizing that there are sacred patterns in the universe and everything is connected. Aromatherapy is connected to crystals and crystal healing. Crystals are connected to astrology. Astrology is connected to tarot. And so there's really nothing that isn't connected. What I'm trying to do tonight is just reveal to you a little bit about the magic of numbers. So we're going to talk about the hero's journey and the monomyth. Then we're going to talk about a little bit about what numerology is and why it's so important for you. And then we're going to dive right in. The only thing you need to have for tonight is your birthday. So if you have the day, month, and year of your birthday, and you need to work with the single digits. So my birthday is August 9th, 1973. And so for the purposes of numerology, I'm adding together 8 plus 9 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 3. And then you reduce that down to a double-digit number, and then from a double-digit number, you reduce that down to a single-digit number. And that ultimately is your life path number. And so that is the number we're going to work with tonight, but in hopefully a different way than you've ever worked with it before, as we are going into the realm of what I call our arcana guides, right? The arcana is the mystery, and these are our guides through the arcana. That's why they're called the major arcana. And these figures represent archetypes, which is why for me it's so connected to Joseph Campbell, because Joseph Campbell was actually very interested in archetypes and the ways in which archetypes help us understand and navigate our own personal journey. Okay? Are you with me? And so I had mentioned before how I'm a 3710. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight too about the reducing numbers. In other words, the double digit that you reduce down to get your single digit life path number is important. Some of them are more important than others. And so we're going to talk about the master numbers tonight. One of you had asked about the angel numbers, and I'm very open to talking about angel numbers too, because here's the reality, and I resisted this for a long time, okay? But the most important language of the universe is numbers. The most important language of the universe is numbers. And the universe communicates to you in numbers. That's what sacred geometry is. And in fact, when we go back all the way to the history of mathematics in ancient Greece, the founders of mathematics understood. And numbers are important even in the world of sound. Every musical note has a mathematical correspondence. And of course, then from there, the musical notes have color correspondences, chakra correspondences, all the way down. And so it's layer upon layer upon layer of meaning. We're going to get as far as we can get tonight in the next hour or so. And then if you guys love this, we're going to do a 2.0. Because there's just so much. I almost could do a whole year of numerology. Remember how I did astrology last year where I did 1 hour for each of the astrological signs? I literally could do a full hour on each of the life path numbers too. So, and because I don't have the time to go that far in depth with you tonight, we're gonna scratch the surface, and then you see how far down the rabbit hole you want to go with me. Some of you are rabbit hole dwellers, and that's awesome. So if you want to keep going down this rabbit hole, I'll keep going down the rabbit hole with you, because for me, there's almost no bottom. You know what I mean? To that search, because the farther you go, the more you see that there are many connections. That cross history and space and time. I know. Down the rabbit hole we go. Scara says, come to mama. So I do have your questions here, printed them out. These are just questions that came up in the groups today. I always like to look at those questions, which is why I always ask for feedback and for you to tell me what's on your mind, and I appreciate it. And so I have those printed here, and I'll get to as many of those questions too as I can tonight. I know, right? We're all experts in the rabbit hole arts, I would say. When I mention 2-digit number, let me explain what that means, okay? So I gave my birthday as an example, right? August 9th, 1973. 8 plus 9 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 3. That's the adding up the month plus the day plus each of the digits of the year of my birthday. When you add all of those up, okay, and you add all those numbers together, you usually get a double-digit number. Mine is 37. Okay, so 37 is the sum total of my birth month, birth day, and the numbers, the digits of my year. 37 then reduces down to 1. 3 plus 7 is 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. Now technically all of the 1s are also 10s, right? 1 plus 0 is 1. So what we say is that number 1 is also a 10, and so we call that the 110 life path. But the way I get to my 110 is through the number 37. There are also people who get to the 110 via the reducing number of 28, okay? My son's birthday, his reducing number is 16 down to a 7. My daughter's reducing number is a 20 down to a 2. My husband's reducing number is a 14 down to a 5. And so in any case, if you have your double-digit number, that's great. You don't have to. We're primarily going to be looking at the single digits tonight, but I will be talking a little bit about the reducing numbers because they do have meaning. And here's what they do. The reducing numbers clarify, okay? So a 37 actually is a life path reducing number of the scholar. And so my 110 profile is a leadership profile, but how I express my leadership is as a 37, and a 37 is a scholar. And that's true for me. I've been an academic administrator and a university professor. I used to train college and university presidents. Even now, I primarily think of myself as a teacher, even though I own a metaphysical company and I do all this work with you. I primarily think of myself as a teacher first. And so that scholar persona is very true for me. One of the things we can talk about tonight is, to what extent is your life path true for you? And part of what you may experience is you grow into your life path over your life. You evolve into the fullness of your life path, in my experience. And so just like your sun sign, you evolve into your sun sign over the course of your life. And in fact, a lot of your karma tends to be bound up in becoming the fullest expression of your sun sign or your life path number. And so we talk about evolved Leos and unevolved Leos, evolved Virgos and unevolved Virgos. There are evolved 110s and there are unevolved 110s. And so one of the things, check out my notes. I'm old school. I've told you this before. I handwrite all my notes. one of the things I'm going to talk to you tonight about is not just the light side of your life path number, but the shadow side of your life path number. Every life path has a light and a shadow. Every life path has the parts of that life path that are easy to work with. Everybody wants to be a leader, right? But every life path also has parts of themselves, less acknowledged parts of themselves they need to look at. As an example, the 110 life path, the shadow of the 110 life path is that they often feel unloved. A lot of 110s go through life feeling unloved. And the reason is 110 is the profile of major leadership, significant leadership, heads of companies, heads of countries. There are more 110 life path university or United States presidents than any other life path. So 110 is the sign of proper leadership, right? And big leadership. But it's very lonely, right? And so 110s tend to go through life feeling like people don't understand them very well, or they're not seen, or they're not loved. And so for each of the life paths, I'm going to explain both the light and the shadow. So Tara, I see you. She's asking about 110. 1/10, okay? The 1 life path is the same as the 10 life path, because 10 is 1 plus 0. Does that make sense? So if your life path is a 1, or if it's a 10, you actually have the same life path, and so we call it the 110. Does that make sense? Okay. Are you guys ready to go? I smudged before, but you know what? I sure am going to smudge very quickly again, because we should. And just calling in, as I said earlier, our learning guides, calling in my teaching guides, and making sure that we are ready to be in proper learning space together. So grateful for your presence. And just clearing off any energies of your day, any energies of my day. Aho to that. Okay. And so Heidi's got a great question, actually. She says, what if your life path isn't a good one? What I want to say to you, Heidi, is I think they're all good ones. I think they're all good ones. I don't think there's a bad one. They all have challenges, okay? I mean, you could look at the 7 life path, for example. Yeah, we have a lot of 33s. Interesting, isn't it? Here's an example. The 7 life path is a hugely spiritual life path. Think about the number 7 and how important it is in almost every tradition, especially the Eastern traditions. For example, to the Chinese, it's very auspicious to have a house number that reduces down to 7. I actually lived in a house once where the house number was 11711, and it reduced to 11. So it was like, wow, there were 11s and 11s and 11s, and then an 8, a house number that reduces to an 8. And what I'm telling you is your house number matters. Your driver's license, some people do driver's license and license plate numbers. Your phone number has meaning. And what you can start to do is look at patterns. Do you know what I mean? I will tell you that if you live in an 8 house, if you live in a house where the number is reduced to 8, in many cultures that's thought to be a house where you will make money, or where the house will ultimately pay for itself, or where the house will ultimately become a source of rich financial investment. So Rhonda has an 8 house. Teresa, a 7 house is going to be a house where there will be good spiritual energy. And that's believed both in metaphysical traditions, it's believed in Chinese culture as well. If your house is a 3, Skara, that is a beautiful number because that's a number of creative expression. It means there's going to be freedom in your house. And so we're going to talk about all this tonight. Are you guys ready? Let me just say briefly, because I wanted to mention Joseph Campbell, and when we're a little behind tonight, I appreciate your patience. So before we even get into numerology, before we get into tarot and runes and all the other things, Joseph Campbell is one of the most influential figures in my spiritual development. And he has 2 concepts really that shaped my thinking about everything, about history, about mythology, about my own spiritual development, about the way I see culture, because the monomyth that he talks about, which is one of the central concepts in his work, the monomyth means that there's really one story that the entire universe is telling, and that is the story of good versus evil and the triumph of good over evil. And Joseph Campbell gives the example of Star Wars as a trilogy, a narrative of that good versus evil. And there's a hero in the journey, right? Luke Skywalker. And so much of the entire trilogy, and the entire series, I should say, of Star Wars, is really following Luke on his hero's journey to find his mentor, to go through transformation, to be challenged by outside external forces, and to rise above evil in order to reveal to us the championing of good over evil. The hero's journey is an individual journey, and your life path number, this is why I'm teaching you this, your life path number is your hero's journey. Whatever that number is for you, and that's how I want you to think about this tonight. This is you as the hero. This is you as Luke Skywalker, okay? And this is the path that you are being asked by the universe to walk. And you're going to be given guides, and you're going to be given mentors. You're going to be given an Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're going to be given a Darth Vader. And what do? Each one of the life paths responds differently to evil. Each one of the life paths responds differently to good. Each one of the life path numbers responds differently to the challenges that naturally arise as you, the hero of your life, go about the hero's path and the hero's journey. And so I want you to, I'm telling you that because I want to give you a framework for how to think about this tonight. This is your hero's journey that we're talking about. And I honor you because I know you're walking it with grace. That's why I'm going to teach you tonight about both the light and the shadow of each one of these life paths, because no matter how beautiful your number is, right, and they're all beautiful in their own way, you will face challenges, and it's how you meet and face those challenges, I think, that reveals so much about you, truly. Thank you for that, Teresa. That's like probably the best compliment I've ever received. I'm honored to be your Obi-Wan on this journey. Okay. So we're going to talk about all of that tonight. Your life path number is the blueprint, okay? So it doesn't mean that this is hard and fast. It doesn't mean it's fixed. It doesn't mean that you can't change and you can't evolve. But it does mean that this is sort of behind the scenes operating in your life as a framework for how your life is going to unfold and what your major challenges and your major development areas are going to be. And so that's where we, for goodness sake, Ty Holgate, she just said she's never seen Star Wars. I personally feel like I need to come to your house right this minute and rectify that situation. I don't know, girl. I need you to see Star Wars. Just make a commitment to me that sometime in the next month you'll watch it so that we can have this conversation, right? Okay. So like I said, your life path number doesn't just apply to your life. Your house has a life path number. Your telephone has a life path number. And not really a life path number, but it has a numerological significance. So you should do the digits of your house. You should do your license plate if you want. You can do your telephone number. And then I definitely recommend running life path numbers on everyone you know. So if you have a birthday, you should be reducing it down and then looking for areas of complementarity, like where you gel well with a particular life path, and look for areas of challenge so that you can learn more about that too. Okay, are you ready? So tonight we're going to be talking about 1 through 9, because remember, 10 is 1. So if your life path is 10, you're a 1 and a 10, and so we're going to focus on 1 tonight, okay? We're going to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 22, because 11 and 22 are the most important of all the reducing numbers. They are called master numbers. And if you have a master number profile, quick funny story. So I had my daughter by C-section, and she was 1 day away from a master number. And I really wanted to hold out. I was like, listen, I know that she's coming, but it'd be really great if she could just wait 7 more hours. Because if she comes tomorrow, she'll be at 22.4, and I really wanted that. And then, of course that didn't happen. And it turns out she has her own magical profile, and it suits her completely. But anyway, I was just in this moment of like, she's so close to being a master number. And of course my obstetrician is looking at me like, crazy lady. So apparently they're not into life path numbers, OBGYN. At least mine was not. Okay, so we're going to begin with number 1, and I'm going to walk through. First, I'm going to tell you about each of the numbers, okay? And I welcome you to take notes. All that I have on this is in my personal notes. This isn't transcribed anywhere. So grab a pen and a piece of paper, and as we go through, you may want to do what I do, which is I just listed down the side of my page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can sort of divide up your notes that way. And feel free to ask questions as I'm going. You can stop me and interrupt me. I'm here to teach you, and there's no dumb questions. So If it's a question that's on your mind, I guarantee you it's on somebody else's mind too, and so you might as well ask the question. Yes, and this will be recorded and archived forever and ever, amen, so that you can always come back to it when you need to. Nicolette's like, girl, I've been taking notes since we started. See, Nicolette is ready to learn. I love that. I'm a note taker, by the way, and I like color coding. I'm super old school when it comes to like notes. I don't think I'll ever really fully be in this century when it comes to how I work with information, because I just love pen and paper too much. Okay, so let's start with number one. Number one, I'm going to give you one keyword or two keywords for each life path. Okay, and number one, there's no two ways about it. Number one is the leader, and number 8's a leader too. So I want to make a distinction. Number one is a leader who is here to be of service to humanity. Okay. And they do that in a primary way. So number ones are meant to be CEOs. They're meant to be chief executive officers. Now, they can be the family CEO. I have plenty of 110 friends who are the chief executive officers of their family. And they run their family like a beautiful organization, okay? I'm CEO of Sage Goddess, right? I was a university professor. I trained presidents. That was my area of expertise in higher education, was the presidency. I obviously spent my whole life studying the presidency. And like I said, there's more American presidents with the 110 profile than any other number. Let's talk about some key words. 110s are passionate because they're here to do something and they know it. They are strong-willed, they are confident, but they are extremely generous. The 110 profile literally will give you the shirt off their back, because 110s, if they feel like giving something to you is a way to be of service to you, they will literally do anything for you. And so it's one of the most, I think, all-time generous profiles that you can possibly have, because there's no selfishness. 110s are here to be of service to humanity, and they know it. And so they don't hoard possessions, they don't hoard people, they don't hoard relationships. They're actually much more giving, and they don't try to really control people as much as they try to control ideologies, because they're here to shift paradigms. Okay, they're here to create something new that didn't exist before they got here. A lot of time 110s are in a hurry. Like even me, sometimes I talk fast, I write fast, I think fast. It's almost like the universe is behind us, pushing us, because we have so much to do before the game is over. So that is the 110 life path in a nutshell. I know it well. Obviously, it's the life path that I was born into. Okay, the rune, interestingly enough, for the 110 life path is Ansu's. If you've collected the Month of Magic kits with the different runes, this might be a fun way for you to tie back into some of those rune kits that we have. And Ansu's, interestingly enough, means a lot of different things, but it is the rune of divination. And one of the things about 110 life paths is they can see the future quite accurately. And part of it is the future they see is the future they want to create. 110s have a vision in their mind of what it is they want to do for others. They want to manifest, but it's always a collective vision they're trying to manifest. Let's say that that's the counterpoint to the 8. The 8 is not here to manifest a collective vision. The 8 is usually here to manifest an individual vision of success and service. And so that is the difference between the 110 leadership model and the number 8 leadership model. Okay, so passion, confidence, all the things. The tarot card for the 110. You actually have 2, of course, right? But your primary tarot card for the 110 life path is my favorite card in the whole flippin' deck. And you know why I love this card so much? If you weren't with me last year when I taught the major arcana, then this is kind of a fun way for me to teach you again, okay? Yeah, and if you're just coming on now, the whole thing is recorded, and we will post the recording for you afterwards, so don't stress about going back and trying to catch up. Just be here with me now, and then you can go back, because we're really still talking about ones right now, and so you're not that far behind. The Magician is such a powerful card because on his table in front of him are all of the tools. All of the elements are represented here: earth, water, air, and of course he represents fire itself. And so what the Magician has is command over the 4 elements. And in some ways it feels like the 110 life path has that sometimes. They seem to have the favor of the universe. Have you ever noticed that? And I've felt like that in my life. I've always felt like I had the universe's favor, or like the universe was on my side. I don't know how to explain to you why I have felt that way, but 110s often, if you ask them, will tell you that they feel like they have the favor. But part of it is too, they're so confident they don't think they're going to fail, and so they don't. A lot of times when you think you're going to fail, that's exactly when you do. And because 110s never think they're going to fail, it's like they're a cat that always lands on their feet. Does that make sense? Yeah, so this is a fun way for me to teach you the tarot in a little condensed version. So if you don't know your life path, just circling back one more time, you're going to take your birthday. So my birthday is August 9th, 1973. You're going to add up the month, the day, and the 4 digits of the year, and then reduce it down until you get one number. So for me, it's 8 plus 9 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 3. You add all those digits up. That reduces to 37, and then you add 3 plus 7, that reduces to 10, then you add 1 plus 0, and that reduces to 1. You got to do a little bit of math, but I promise you it's worth it, okay? All right, the Magician is your card. Your planet, number 1, is the sun. Element fire, primarily, and then your stones are carnelian, of course, which is a cardinal fire element stone. Ruby, which is a stone of magic. In fact, magicians throughout history have thought that ruby was one of the most important stones that they could work with, because our ancient ancestors thought that the ruby actually held the energy of the human heart. And so because the 110 rules from the heart, the number 8 rules from the mind, but because the 110 rules from the heart, ruby is a really important stone. Garnet also and cinnabrite are the other 2 stones that align with life path number 1. And by the way, I'm sure you guys saw this, but did you see we have life path stone trios in the shop today? So every single one of these numbers, there's actually a stone set, and it comes with a little description. So if you know what your life path is and you want to collect the stones, those are actually on sagegoddess.com today for you if you would like to look into that. We also have the major arcana perfumes for you. So if you want to experience the Magician in a perfume form, or if you want to experience the High Priestess in perfume form, those are there for you as well. Okay, the essential oils for 110. There's lots of them, but primarily in my work, Artemisia and myrrh are the 2 essential oils. Artemisia, because mugwort, for example, is one member of the Artemisia family, wormwood. Artemisia is the entire family of herbs and essential oils that represent divination, magic, and extremely potent energy work. Artemisia can shift the vibration in a room. It can clear unwanted energies. It can bring blessings of health, peace, and joy. And so it's a very powerful essential oil for you to work with. Like I said, so the 110 life path is a great life path. It's leadership, it's blessings of the universe, but they often feel alone and unloved. So the shadow of the 110 is they often feel like people don't see them, not for who they are, but for what they do. And they want to be known and loved for who they are. But because they are leaders and they're in service to the universe, they often feel like they're not here for love. And so that is the shadow of the 110 life path. Very interesting, isn't it? Okay, number 2. Are you ready? If you are a 2, who's a 2? I want to know. Number 2, your keywords are mother and intuitive. If you're an 11, okay, if your 2-digit number, your reducing number is an 11, you are a master healer. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But you are also a 2, because 11 reduces down to 2. I'm calling all my 2s. Carmen Renaga, Brandy's there. And so the 2 is the mother and the intuitive. In the major arcana of the tarot, who have we got? Isn't that interesting? Number 2 is the High Priestess. So true, right? Okay, this is a fascinating profile because it is the ultimate sign of intuition and sacrifice. Does that resonate with you guys? Look at all these 11-2s, you guys. For serious, like I'm shocked actually at how many 11-2s there are. But you know, in a way, it doesn't surprise me because you guys are the born magicians, and born priestesses, I should say. I'm the born magician. You're the born priestess. The 2s are the most psychic women in the universe. Seriously, if you're a 2 and you're not psychic, we should talk. Because you probably are, and you just don't even realize it. So powerful. Isn't that cool, Joy? And Jody and all of you. It's so interesting to see all of you with this profile. Okay, here's some keywords for you. They're vulnerable. They are emotionally available, and they're nurturing. These are the natural mothers of the world. You don't have to teach a 2 how to be a mother. She came into this life ready to be a mother. And whether she ever has children of her own or not, and I'm going to talk about men in a minute, okay? Whether a 2 ever has children of their own or not, they're mothering something. When 2s are babies, they're mothering their stuffed animals, and they're mothering the cat around the house, and they're mothering the dog around the house. As they get older, they begin to mother their siblings and sometimes even other kids at school. When they finally do have children, these are the moms who are seriously dialed in. These, and let's talk about men, because I'm talking more about divine feminine energy. If you have a son or a husband or a partner or a cousin who is a man and is a 2, he's going to be deeply in touch with his own femininity, and he's not going to struggle with it. You know how some men, when they really are trying to access that divine feminine, they struggle a little bit because sometimes they might feel like it's a challenge to their masculinity. That doesn't happen to the 2s. They're so able to show up fully. And let's talk about reinforcing signs. It'd be really beautiful to see a 2 who's a Cancer, for example, because that would really reinforce everything I'm telling you. Any of the water signs actually would reinforce this, as would the air signs. Because again, the air signs tend to be the more intuitive of all the signs, although water signs can be very intuitive as well. And so depending on whether your astrological sign is an air sign or a water sign, that's going to reinforce some of this energy of the 2. Isn't it interesting? Maria's got a husband who's a 2 Cancer. I would say Maria kind of won the husband lottery for a minute. That's a pretty flippin' fantastic husband to marry. Okay. High Priestess. Moon is the planet. Water is the element. Moonstone. Aragonite. Those are some of the crystals that you're going to work with if you are working with Life Path 2. Your essential oils for Life Path 2, jasmine and blue lotus, are 2 of my primary favorites to work with. Blue lotus because it's going to just open up all of those intuitive pathways that are already so activated for the 2 life path anyway, but it's gonna allow all of that energy to move through you and out of you and into the people that you're working with in an even more fluid way. Wow, Jessica's guy is a 2 Cancer too. And when you girls went shopping for partners, you scored. That's really cool. Okay, let's talk about the shadow though. Are you ready? It's beautiful, right? The 2 life path, the mother, the intuition, all these things. What do you think the shadow is of the 2? What do you think they have a need for that isn't met? You guys want to take a guess? Some of you who are 2s or you have a partner who's a 2, can you think about what the need might be that isn't met by being the intuitive, the mother? What would you say would be the not met need? Yes, in a way, it very much is. They need to experience compassion for themselves. They need to experience comfort for themselves. They are so exquisite at taking care of you, and they will never ask you to take care of them. But if you do, you will have their loyalty and their love and their appreciation forever. Because they're so keenly aware that they don't always get what they give. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you too, who are 2s? They don't always get what they give. And they almost accept it. It's almost like when they came into this life, I think some of them knew that they were here to mother, but they weren't going to get that back. And so if you are parenting a 2, every time you show them that loving kindness, that compassion, that physical, tenderness and generosity, they're going to endear themselves to you even more fully because they're looking for it, even if they can't articulate that. The rune for number 2 is Hagalaz, interestingly enough, which is the rune of impending change. And interestingly, a lot of times the rune correspondences actually show you where your work is, the work that you need to be doing. And 2s struggle with change. They don't like divorce. They don't like to move. They don't like you to rearrange their room. They don't like you to rearrange their sock drawers. 2s kind of have things in their places, and so the idea that they need to learn how to manage change is really interesting to me, and I think that's where the medicine of the rune comes in. I wish I had the actual runes to show you. I don't have the actual runes to show you, but I can always follow up with you in the groups, and actually, in fact, if you guys like this, here's a question. Would you like me to make a meme for each of the life paths that has like description and the rune and all of that in it. Wouldn't that be kind of fun? And the oils and the herbs and everything. I would actually really love to make those for you. I won't be able to make them all right away, but that would be really a fun way for me to follow up with you and make sure that you have access to the information in a written form. Okay, so I will meme these right up for you, which may lessen the pressure right now to take all of these notes. Okay, so bear with me, give me like a week or so, and I will make some pretty, I will have my team work with me to make some pretty runes, memes for you that have like the rune and the stone and the mantra and the keyword and all the things. So high five to that. Sometimes when I ask a question, the answer is somewhat obvious, but sometimes people get information overload too. So I try to balance like too much, not enough, more of this, less of that. So look at Norma, meme me up, Scotty. Okay. Okay, cool. Yes, we are doing rune classes toward the end of the year. That's going to be a hell of a party. I'm calling it the Odin party because the runes were actually gifted to Odin after a journey that he went on to discover the secrets of the great mystery. That's what the universe gifted to Odin in response to his quest for wisdom and mysterious knowledge. And so anyway, we're coming back to that later. Okay. Okay. Number 3. Are you ready? The child. And what I like to call, my name for the 3 life path is the Imagineer. This is the artist profile, okay? If you are a 3 and you're not an artist, or you don't think of yourself as an artist, I would rethink that, because you may not be a painter, but I bet you decorate your home beautifully, or you curate items in your home beautifully, or you choose art well, or you appreciate art and beauty in some way. The oils for number 2, sorry. Blue lotus and jasmine are the oils. The 3s are the Empress. Nobody appreciates beauty like a 3. Nobody does. This, of all of the major arcana and of all of the life paths, there is no life path that appreciates beauty more than this one. Look at her in her beautiful flowing dress. She has the symbol, of course, of the divine feminine in the color of the heart chakra, nested within a heart. She's sitting on a beautiful velvet pillow. She has a crown, but it's a crown of stars. Right, so she's connected to beauty and to the stars. In the language of the tarot, stars represent wishes. And so the Empress is sitting there saying, I can make all your dreams come true. She's just this, she is the artist. She is curating, she is gathering, she understands beauty. This is really well reinforced, by the way, by sun sign Taurus. If you're a 3 life path and you're a Taurus, then I really don't believe you if you tell me you're not an artist, because that is like honestly, probably one of the most gorgeous art profiles, or profile of someone who has the potential to be a significant artist. And so that is one of my favorite profiles. Let's talk about keywords for number 3. Trinity. Balance, because the 3, think of the 3-legged stool, right? 3 takes a 2 and helps it stand. Okay, you can't have a 2-legged stool, really. You have to have 3 legs. So 3 is the first time we experience balance. And so what the 3s teach us is you can't have light without shadow. You can't have shadow without light. They're teaching us about balance, and how balance can create beauty. Many number 3s, by the way, many number 2 and number 3 life path folks are ambidextrous. I would really love to know in the feed. Isn't that funny? Tina's, her older daughter's a 3. She's very artistic. Christine's mom is a 3. Leanne, 3 Virgo. That's going to be a sign of understanding and appreciating beauty. You may not create beauty, but you sure do know what it looks like. And so a 3 Virgo is going to be someone who would be really well placed in a position of like interior design or museum or art curation of some kind. Okay, so they are fun, they're expressive. 3s have flippin' fantastic senses of humor. Even the kids, have you noticed? Do your 3 kids have a rad sense of humor? Because almost every 3 I know is really funny. They're almost like inherently funny people. And so they know how to make you laugh. Isn't that cool? Heidi's says Mike was 3 Virgo artist. Isn't that interesting? Rest his soul. It's so beautiful to know like more about his profile as I sort of have leaned into his energy field recently. So interesting, you guys. Okay, so 3 is the child and the Imagineer. Let's talk about correspondences. The 4 elements, actually. 3 is represented by earth, air, fire, and water. So they don't have a favorite element. But again, I think it's because they're teaching us balance. The planet is Jupiter. Like I said, it's well aspected in Taurus, but you also see a lot of 3s who are Geminis. And again, the 3 Gemini profile is a very profound profile for the artist. And then the rune for number 3 is Uruz, which probably won't surprise you. That is the rune of courage, primarily. And doesn't it take courage? Again, the rune is around the work you have to do. As a 3, you have to have courage because you are the first life path to create balance. And so that means you're sometimes going to be in conflict with people. 3s aren't always the peacemakers. Those are the 2s. The 2s are the peacemakers. 3s try to come in and create balance, and they're trying to level the playing field. They're trying to take everybody's opinions into consideration. And so sometimes that can necessitate having greater courage and strength. So Uruz, U-R-U-Z is the rune correspondence for number 3. And then the stones are Mukite jasper, aquamarine, and no surprise, blue lace agate, because that is the stone of artistic inspiration. And so that is the primary gemstone that we associate with life path number 3. Oh, hi, Vicki. No, it's totally better late than never. You are right on time. And this is recorded, so you can go back and watch it later. So don't feel pressured. Just kind of join me right where I am right now, and then you can watch and catch up a little bit later. Okay. A spot of tea, and then I'm going to number 4. Tony says, big question. If you have 5/23, 1966, and some of those numbers are your birthday, some of the traits of 2 and 3, is that why? Potentially. Most people would say no, but I would say every number in your birthday is significant. I was born on the 9th day of August, and everything in my astrological chart is in the last degree, which is 9. And 9 is usually considered to be the end of the human cycle before you ascend to pure spirit. So that's why when I was very young, an astrologer told my mom, your daughter's on her last life path. And that message, or her last lifetime, and that message has been repeated to me throughout my life. So do I think it's insignificant? I sure don't, Tony. And in fact, if it feels significant to you, then I guess that's all that matters in a certain way. Okay, let's talk about the shadow of number 3. One of number 3's biggest fears is that they will lose their own stability. Okay? They're trying to create balance. They're afraid they're going to lose balance. And so as children, sometimes they worry about their parents getting divorced, or these will be the kids who are anxious that one of their parents might die. These are people who look around their life and they want to put structures in place to ensure their own security and their own balance and their own stability. Does that resonate? And you know what they have to learn? 3s have to learn, just like the rest of us have to learn. There's no way to guarantee any of that. You know, we live in a serendipitous universe where events unfold in alignment with spirit time, not our time. And so, and some of the other life paths can be good teachers to number 3 about maybe needing, letting go of some of that need to control. So that they're not insecure, because an undeveloped 3 can seem very insecure, and that can actually undermine their adult relationships later, because what they can end up becoming is sort of a clinger, right, in a relationship, and you don't want that. Very few life paths respond well to somebody who's clingy. The only, I would say the only life path number that kind of likes clingy is number 7. Number 7 kind of likes the cling. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. Right? Okay. So that is the shadow of number 3, is their need to almost forcibly create stability without recognizing that the universe doesn't operate that way. The essential oil for number 3 is rose, which shouldn't surprise you either, because that is known to be an essential oil of the artist. It's known to be an essential oil of compassion, which number 3s offer to everyone in their life in spades. And so that is... Yeah, I'm okay. I was having a little trouble with, there was incense, sort of too much incense around me earlier, but I'm feeling much better. That's why I have my tea, just in case my throat gets dry. Interesting, right? My son is clingy that way. And he worries. Like even last night, he wanted to talk about how long everybody in my life has lived. Parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. And I could tell he was like doing the math, and I kept telling him, relax. Don't worry so much. The sevens, even as children, the sevens are worrying enough for both of us. It's like, God, I don't ever have to worry about anything because I've got you. You know? They're like little old men and little old ladies, the sevens. Have you noticed? When my son was born, he looked like he was 85. Like he was 5 pounds, this little tiny package, but he looked like he was 90. I was like, and I literally looked at him and I was like, listen, little old man. It's cute, right? Okay. The herb for number 3, or the flower, is the same as the oil. Rose petals and rose oil are the primary tools for number 3, because they need to learn to receive that compassion. They're looking for it, and they need to recognize that the stability that they're seeking is already within. That's the medicine for number 3. Interesting, Annalisa. That might be really good for you, though. You know what I mean? If your husband and you both, I mean, honestly, that doesn't happen very often, that you have same reducing number and same life path number. But that is also the life path of extreme spiritual evolution, which doesn't surprise me given your profile and your gifts and Jeffrey's profile and Jeffrey's gifts. So anyway, I just want to put that out there for you. Some of you I know personally, and so I can sort of speak to that. Okay, you ready? Number 4 is the builder. I love me some 4s, because guess what? I am an entrepreneur, which of course is one of the characteristics of the 110 profile, but I need people behind me who can build to my vision. You know what I mean? I'm a visionary. I'm not a builder. And so I love 4s. I seek them. The tarot card for the 4, of course, is the Emperor. And the Emperor represents order and structure, right? He's even balanced. His chair has the four posts, right? Everything about this card is in balance and in right order. And that's exactly what the Emperor represents. He represents order and structure. And that's what 4s are all about. Let's talk about some keywords. Hard work. Okay? 4s are not shy. They're not going to shy away from hard work. Structure. They appreciate solid foundations. They don't like to rush into relationships. And again, if you're a 22 into a 4, I'm still going to teach you about 22 separately, but let's focus on your single digit right now, and then I'll come back to your reducing number when we get to the master numbers, yeah? Okay, you cannot, I won't say you cannot, you shouldn't surprise a 4, okay? 4s kind of like to know what's going on. And they like to understand, you know, kind of the subterranean influences. They don't tend to like surprises. They are practical, they are responsible, and oddly enough, they actually have a really green thumb. I don't know what it is, but 4s are also the gardeners of the world. Everything they touch grows. Have you noticed? They usually are really good with money too. Like they touch plants and they grow. And they touch relationships and they grow. And they, you know, sometimes they're also teachers, a lot of times have 4 profiles. And so they touch a student's life and the student grows. So that's a very interesting part of the builder profile. The shadow. You ready? Because the 4s are all about creating foundation and stability for everybody. They make great parents, okay? But here's the shadow, I think, of the 4, is even though they seem very selfless to a certain extent, because they're here to create stability and foundation for everybody, they actually really do want rewards. So the shadow is always a need for something. For number 4s, they have a need for a reward. They really do want to be recognized, not in any kind of formal way, like they're not asking you for a trophy or like a, you know, a cape, but they do want you to say thank you and that you're grateful, and they want you to express appreciation. Appreciation is really important for a 4 because they're working so hard to help you build and to help you create, and they just want to know that you see them. Does that make sense? Yeah, they want to be acknowledged. Bella's a beautiful word, actually. That Bella just offered to help support me on that. They want to be appreciated. So let's talk about all the other things. The oil and the herb for number 4 is sage. And part of it is that is a foundational herb and a foundational oil. You can build upon sage, and almost anything mixes well with sage. But sage has every metaphysical property. Sage is thought to bring prosperity and abundance. It's clearing, it's healing, it's protective. You know what I mean? So when you think about what a 4 is, they're kind of the whole package. You even need an herb and an oil that reflect that to a certain extent. So that's where we talk about sage. The gemstones, garnet, talk about stability, right? Lemurian jade, which is a mix of quartz and magnetite and pyrite, which magnetite is huge stabilizer, huge stone of manifestation and magnification, and black Lemurian jade is a organizing stone. It creates energetic structure, and so of course that's a stone that we work with. And then opalite, which is a stone of success, because 4s don't want to do anything unless they think they're going to be able to finish it. These are the finishers, right? 4s don't like to set up expectations that they can't achieve. They're really concerned about satisfaction, and not their own satisfaction, but they really are concerned with other people's satisfaction, which I love so much. And as long as you appreciate them, they will always be happy. Water and fire elements, and sun sign Cancer typically is associated with the builder profile. I will tell you, for me, I associate this with sun sign Capricorn, because Capricorn came here to create, achieve, and build. Truly, that is why Capricorns are on this earth. Now, Virgos to a certain extent have that profile too, and so I won't say it's just Capricorn territory, but I will say that Capricorns are probably best aspected to be strong builders and to be able to manifest some of the qualities that we're talking about. Interesting, right? Okay. And so MJ says, my dad is a 22-4 Scorpio. Very interesting. Holly, yes, Capricorn and Scorpio. So we're seeing kind of a pattern, right? The water signs and the earth signs predominantly. It's very interesting to me. That's funny. Andrea says, he told me last night I don't start something I can't complete. And isn't that interesting? I love that. Okay, so here we go. So that is number 4. We talked about the tarot card. And then Dagaz is the rune, D-A-G-A-Z, which is the balance of light and darkness in service of creation. And again, 4s are the builders. So lots of other runes represent balance in other facets. But this particular rune is about balance in service of creation. And the 4s are committed to that in ways that no other life force or no other life path really is. Okay, number 5 is the explorer profile. But number 5 is way more than that. Let me see if I have a planet for number 4. I don't have a planetary correspondence for that. Actually, you know what? I don't have a dedicated one, but I will tell you, I would say it's Saturn. Because Saturn is the planet of creation, building, and also life lessons, coming around to understand what you may not have understood or gathered from previous lifetimes or previous experiences. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say Saturn would be my choice for a planetary correspondence for number 4 for the builder profile. Okay, also a great profile, by the way, for husbands, fathers, partners, because they're going to be there to support you in so many powerful ways. Okay, number 5, the explorer profile. This is a profile of challenge, okay? And we've talked about the 5 profile before. And so the 5 profile is not the easiest life, okay? Every 5 that I have ever known has come into this lifetime to face challenges. And part of their evolution, part of their karma in that lifetime. And by the way, you ready for my theory on this? And I welcome you to disagree, by the way. This is just my personal 2 cents on this based on my experience over these decades doing this work. I actually think you come through with one lifetime across each life path. Interesting, right? And I don't think they're in order. But I think everybody has karma that brings them through each life path at least once. And I think if you don't do it right, okay, then I think you come back and do it again. I'm trying to show up fully to being a big 1 in this lifetime, because I don't really want to come back and do this particular one again. It hasn't been a bad life path, but it's a very it's a demanding life path, and so I would love to come back as a 7, like a clingy spiritual philosopher profile. I would love to come back as a 7. I think I already did 7, but it sounds really nice to me right now sometimes. And so anyway, I think about that. Okay, explorer profile comes in to deal with challenges. Let's talk about qualities and characteristics. They're unattached to a certain extent. Like 5s, what blows my mind with 5s, and I'm married to one, so I sort of speak from a place of experience perhaps, is stuff that bothers every other life path doesn't bother them. Sort of but it's because they understand that everybody in life is having a difficult time. They are very empathic. They never, you know how a lot of life paths will sort of take other people's experiences for granted or not be as sensitive? The 5s have had so many challenges that whatever you're going through, they're going to meet you right there. They're not going to expect too much from you. They're going to appreciate where you are. They are the walk a mile in my shoes people. Okay? And so even if they're not hugely emotional people, like my husband's not a hugely emotional person, he is deeply empathetic. He has an intense soft spot for anyone who's having a physical or mental challenge. That is his, like if he sees, and particularly when it's children, if he sees a child who's having a physical or any kind of mental or psychological challenge, he literally like melts into this empathic place. That's a 5. Because even though that may not be his child, and it doesn't matter whose child it is, my husband just literally melts into a puddle. That's his area, you know, where he has to, he's come in to sort of show up as a healer for people who are having challenging experiences. Okay, what's the shadow? You ready? They have a need for company. 5s don't want to be alone. 5s know they're here to go through some shit, okay? And one of the biggest fears of a 5 is that they're going to have to go through that shit by themselves. Okay? So one of the number one things you can do to love a 5, because they need love. They're not here having an easy time. One of the best things you can do is remind your 5 they'll never be alone. I won't leave you alone. You don't have to do this alone. They tend to partner early, and they tend to be loyal and monogamous and remain in partnership most of the time for the duration of their life. This is not a profile that likes to date. This is not a profile that likes to cheat. These are the folks that are going to be with you from beginning to end. And all they're going to ask of you in return is that you don't leave them alone. Isn't that sweet? In a way, it's a childlike profile. And I think that's why so many 5s have such deep empathy and compassion for children, is because they recognize that they could easily be in that alone spot. And children seem so defenseless sometimes. And so I think that's why they rise up. Let's talk about the other side. You ready? The Hierophant is number 5 in the major arcana of the tarot. And the Hierophant represents law. Okay? So here's the thing you got to know about 5s. There's a right and there's a wrong. And they are always going to do, unless they're not well evolved, they're always going to do what is right. The 5s. Have you noticed that? And man, they don't like it if you do what's wrong. Have you noticed? Like, seriously, they are so ethically bound in a certain way to law and to what is right and what is wrong. And they understand it so deeply that they feel personally offended sometimes when people do the wrong thing, even if it has nothing to do with them. You know what I mean? And in a way, I'll tell you, because I'm married to one and I'm watching him parent our children, I love that about him. My kids have such a secure sense of right and wrong, mostly because both of us are very ethical people, but because my husband has been such a good teacher about, so what do you do in that situation? What's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to say? And let's always do that, even if no one's looking. That is the truth about the 5. Very interesting, right? Now, that can mean they have hang-ups. Sometimes 5 have sexual hang-ups. So that's just something to look out for, because they can tend to have a very rigid sense. They're very sensual people, but they sometimes feel like there's this weird thing about right and wrong and like who it's okay to be sensual with, and so sometimes they can develop some hang-ups. Let's just say that. But that's okay. And then Raidho, R-A-I-D-H-O, is the rune, and that is the rune of present time. And for 5, the work that has to be done, because that's what the runes represent, the work that has to be done is to stop worrying about the past and trying to plan the future. Be here now. 5 struggle with that, but they find peace in the here and now. Like if they resist it, and yet if they can learn how to be in the here and now, they find such comfort there, because their anxiety, they tend to be very anxious people. They're not like 7s who tend to be obsessive compulsive. And I hate to make that generalization, but there's a lot of OCD with the 7s, and I'll talk about why that is, but they tend to go through some of that anxiety. And so that's why the Raidho rune for present time is what we consider to be the rune of number 5. And then their oil and their herb are oak moss. They're one and the same. Oak moss is about connecting to ancient wisdom. And one of the things the 5s have to do is learn to seek peace and seek understanding and seek balance, and trust that there are forces outside of them that are there to support them. And so oak moss is a really powerful druid medicine for anxiety, in fact. And so that's, for me at least, partly why I chose it for that. And then the stones are iolite, picture jasper, and diopside, which are all stones of direction. Because again, these are the explorers. They're looking for answers, but they also are going to go through challenges. And so the picture jasper keeps them optimistic, and the diopside helps them to recover when they experience soul wounds or energetic wounds. Interesting, right? I'm so glad you guys are enjoying this. We're going to go a little bit longer than I thought, just because we were a little bit delayed. We will get through all the life paths tonight, and then we'll have to pick up in a session 2 the reducing numbers. But I hope that you've had a flippin' blast. And if you love it, we'll do a 2.0, and we'll talk more about each profile and the reducing numbers. And I can do that for you in September. So just stay tuned, but don't be anxious if we don't get quite as far tonight as I thought we would. Like you can tell, I'm like trying to tell you all the things, and it takes time. I'm glad. That's why I didn't want to, my throat was like bothering me, but I was like damned and determined that I was going to do this with you tonight, because I've been so excited to share this with you. I'm like a little kid on the edge of my seat. So I appreciate that very much. Okay. The planet, Mercury, no surprise, because what does Mercury govern? Virgo, which is the primary sun sign associated. Element of Earth for the Life Path 5. Okay? Oak moss, as I said, is both the plant and the oil for Life Path 5. Life Path 6, the healer. But the healer, sometimes in the form of the martyr, okay? Not always. That is someone who is not well evolved into their 6, okay? So well evolved 6s are healers. Poorly evolved 6s are healers who heal through perceived sacrifice for others. It can go in that direction. Does that make sense? Joyce is saying, hold on just a second. Yeah, Joyce, if you take all of the month, the date, and the 4 digits of your year of birth, add up each of those digits together. So mine is 8 plus 9 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 3. Keep reducing down, you'll get a single digit, and those are the numbers that we're talking about tonight. Okay. So let me come back to 6. Okay, so it's the healer martyr profile, but it's also the profile of love and marriage. Okay? 6s are here to love and be loved. They are here to be in partnership, and that doesn't necessarily even mean with another human being. 6s are here to be in partnership with the planet. They're here to be in partnership with other souls on the planet. They're here to be in partnership with other parts of the cosmos, because 6s tend to be very intuitive and very empathic. And so let's talk about some qualities. Harmony, beauty, order, protection, love, passion, commitment, and marriage. Okay, those are all qualities of the 6. Oh, for 5 we said element of earth, but sometimes also elements of water and fire. Sometimes if you missed the correspondences, I don't want to circle back too much because we're a little over time, but this is recorded so you can go back and watch, if you missed any of the elements or any of the correspondences. I'm being very careful to go through all of them when I go through each one. So if you miss it, you can always go back when we're done and watch the recording and go back and I'm also going to post memes, by the way, too, so you'll have all of that in the classroom in just a couple days. Okay, so the rune is Wunjo, okay, W-N-J-O, which is the rune of harmonious balance. And that's exactly what the lovers represent. If you remember from my tarot class, the lovers don't necessarily mean two people having sex. The lovers are about complements. And so when you pull the lover's card, sometimes it can mean that an actual physical lover is coming to you. But usually what it means is that some kind of complement is heading your way. If you've been too upset, something's going to come and make you happy. If you've been really sad, somebody's going to come and make you happy. If you've been happy, something might come to make you sad. There's always a balance in the universe, but this is about balance of the heart space, the emotions, okay? And so that's what the lovers represent, beyond the physical union that sometimes people assume that the lover's card always means a physical union. Okay, the essential oils are ylang ylang, which is an aphrodisiac, and tuberose, which is an essential oil of ascension, primarily, but it's also an essential oil of healing. And as essential oil of healing, tuberose is one of the most beautiful crown chakra essential oils, and that's 6s are all activated through the upper chakras. The 7s are activated at the crown and the soul star chakra, but the 6s are activated between the crown and the third eye, and so tuberose is a beautiful crown chakra essential oil. Tuberose would also be the flower or the herb associated primarily with the 6 profile. Okay. And then Venus, of course, is the ruling planet. No surprise. Elements of earth and water. Because again, we're talking about emotions and trying to strike the balance within the emotions. And again, in a healed person, this shows up really, truly as a healing profile. But they're going to want to heal you through the heart space. That the 11s, the master healer profile, those are the physical healers. 6 is less of a physical healer and more of an emotional healer. Okay? Does that make sense to you? Star Ruby perfume would be an absolutely perfect choice, by the way, to work with because it's got some of those essential oils in it, and it would be honestly probably the best perfume choice. That and Magica Rosa, I would say, for this particular profile would be perfect, perfect choices. Okay, and then the stones are prehnite, Tibetan quartz, and bloodstone. No surprise, because those are the 3 most healing stones that you can possibly work with. Prehnite heals the healer, Tibetan quartz heals the physical and auric bodies, and bloodstone is a stone that heals the heart, improves circulation, heals any trauma to muscles and soft tissues. And so because it is a healing profile, we included all the healing stones. Now, I would add stones around the heart chakra. So I would add Unakite jasper, perhaps. I would add green tourmaline would be another really good one to work with for a 6 profile. Because they're the emotional healers. And of course, Star Ruby would be another great stone choice if you have that to work with too. Okay, number 7, guess what? It's the mystic, okay? Number 7 is the mystic. They are here having a spiritual experience of ascension, and they are getting closer to the end of their time, usually, okay? They're not at the end like the 9s, but they're getting close. And so the qualities that we associate with the 7 profile, transformation, cycle completion. So a lot of times 7s are here to be of service to help people end cycles in their life. Annalisa, that makes me think of you, and Jeffrey. They are here to help people transition from one state to another. And that can be through all kinds of healing modalities. Oh, that's right, the shadow of the 6. They need to be seen. They need to be seen. They see people so emotionally clearly, the number 6s. They see right through your physical body to your heart, and I mean deep in. But sometimes they feel like nobody sees them that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know my heart? Do you see my heart? Do you know how much I cry at night? Do you know how abandoned I have felt? Some of that stuff comes up for a 6, and if you can see them emotionally, then again, they're not going to feel resentful of doing all of that emotional healing work on your behalf. Okay, back to 7 with the mystic. They are here to take you from one cycle to another. That can be difficult, but it's very important work. Like I said, in many traditions, including in Chinese mysticism, number 7 is the most important number that you can possibly work with. It is considered to be the number of spiritual ascension, completion. If you live in a 7 house, it is thought to be a house where you could potentially spend the rest of your life, where holidays will be blessed, because this is a sign of spiritual blessing, a life path of spiritual blessing. And so all of that is true. Now, let's talk about the other aspect, though, because your major arcana card is the Chariot. And the Chariot is about movement, but it's about movement through understanding that you have to activate both the dark and the light. You have to balance all of that in order to create movement, in order to be able to move through one stage to another. But the 7s, whereas the 6s are about emotional healing and dealing with trauma as it's occurring, the 7s are about getting you to move beyond it, because they don't want you to be stuck. And so 7s are some of the most powerful energy workers, Reiki practitioners, massage therapists, spiritual leaders and spiritual teachers, astrologers, mystics and energy workers of all kinds are well aspected. It is one of the profiles to be jealous of, because they're just wise. They just know. And you know what? You should trust them. Every time they tell you they have a hunch about something or a feeling about something, every time a 7 in my life says, I think I need to tell you something, my ear is so perked, because first of all, they don't do that often. They're not didactic. They're not going to tell you what to do or how to do it, but they are right. And so these are spiritual advisors. These are people who are going to have a perspective to share with you. And here's what's beautiful about 7s. They don't take it personally if it doesn't resonate with you. Because again, nothing about a 7 is selfish. The 6s are a little selfish just because it's still about heart space, and so it's personal. The 7s are about spiritual evolution, and so whatever that means for you, they really embody that Buddhist philosophy of, take what works for you and leave the rest. And so there's just this, a lot of you are 7s, and I'm not surprised, just because that makes sense to me. It totally resonates with what I know about you. Those of you who are saying, yeah, I'm a 7, I see you, and that totally, totally, totally makes sense. And hopefully you're enjoying your profile because it's so beautiful. Shadow of the 7. They have to make money. Okay? So somehow, they have to be able to live in a mortal world. And so sometimes 7s can actually swing that pendulum too far and use their spiritual gifts to make money, to be able to support themselves. And so one of the things they have to learn is how to do good and do well, and not have one sort of taint the other. Does that make sense? How do you do good and how do you do well, right? Because you should always do both. You should do good and you should do well. The oil is frankincense. The herb or the tree is juniper. Interestingly, juniper is one of the trees associated with death and transformation. And the reason that comes up around the 7 is, think total transformation, spiritual evolution, letting some things go in order to make space for something new. There is a heavy, what's the word I want to say? There's a heavy inclination in this profile toward obsessive compulsive disorder because there's a perfectionistic tendency, okay? And so you kind of have to talk 7s off the ledge. And if you start seeing them doing kind of obsessive things like light switches or washing their hands or like lining, everything has to be neat and organized and stuff, sometimes they need to learn their own spiritual lessons, like, let it be, let it go, live and let live, because they can be all of that spiritual evolution work can turn within and end up creating sort of a perfectionistic, overly focused, overly critical profile. Interesting, right? If you're a 7 and a Virgo, good luck, okay? Because that's difficult. Here's this highly spiritual, profile, and yet all you do when you look around sometimes is see what's missing, see what's wrong, see what's out of order, see what needs to be changed, and that can be a struggle for you, 7s, okay? And then the rune is Ehwaz, E-H-W-A-Z, which is the rune of good intention and success. And again, I know very few 7s who aren't successful. Sometimes they're not hugely successful until much later in life. 50s, 60s, 70s tend to be the best decades of life for 7s, and they also tend to live a very long time. So they tend to have a really long lifespan. But again, they're here to see transformation through. And so some of the shorter lifespans sometimes, like the 1 can be a shorter lifespan. 7 tends to be much longer. And so that is the totality of, and the last thing I want to tell you about 7s is so important. You know what 7s want almost more than anything? And it's really funny because you can't give it to them. This is the tricky, sticky part of 7s. Are you ready? What they want more than anything is they want to know what's true. Is God true? Is heaven true? Even as kids, they ask these questions. But here's the thing. The things that 7 wants to know about, whether they're true, are things that we can't prove to them. And that's why I think some of that OCD comes up around, like they're going to keep spinning their wheels until they figure it out. They're always questioning. And you can't take it personal with a 7 because they're going to be pushing you and questioning you. Again, especially as children, you can't take it personally because they just want to understand. It's not like they're not trying to question your integrity. They're trying to get to truth. And as soon as they realize you can't help them, they're sort of on to the next person who might have a different answer. These are the information gatherers, and that's really important. Okay, profile number 8. You ready? I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, our president right now is an 8. It's a very interesting profile. Okay, and if you have to sign off, I get it, and it'll be recorded for you. We have 4 more profiles that we're going to talk about tonight, and then we're going to be done for this evening, and we'll pick up with a 2.0. Are you ready? I don't know for sure if he's an 8. I was just told he's an 8, so I don't know. But take that for what it is as we talk about it. It might be interesting to you. Okay? Eights are really good at making money. Okay. Not that the other life paths aren't, okay, but it's eights are leaders who know how to create profit, okay, and what's different between the leadership of a 110 and the leadership of an 8 is that the leadership of an 8 is profit driven. The leadership of a 1 is service driven. So if you tell a 110, I'm a 110, if you were to tell me that I could make lots of money, but I would never help anybody, I wouldn't want to do it, because I am much less interested in money than I am in changing the world, okay? If you told an 8 they could make a lot of money, but they might not help anybody, they'll be open to it. Now, an evolved 8 still wants to be of service, because at the end of the day, humans come in and have a human experience because they are here to be teachers, they're here to learn, and they're here to grow and evolve. So, oh, interesting, Pamela says he's a 4. He's a builder. Woohoo, everybody. Okay, oh, let me come back to stones. Yeah, stones for 7. I'm sorry, I skipped those. Thank you for that, Peggy. I really appreciate that. The stones for 7, peacock ore, which is a transformation stone, tiger's eye, and indigo agate, which helps those 7s to enhance their intuitive capacity. Not that they need that, but are we buffering? So let me talk to you about leading and managing for a second. You ready? No, it looks like we're not buffering. Okay. Some people say number 110 is a leader and number 8 is a manager. Okay. I don't really believe that. Not in the sense that the leadership that they do is important. Again, these tend to be heads of big business. These tend to be heads of for-profit organizations. These are people who know how to create profit. A lot of times 2s, 8s, if they're well aspected, especially if they have a philanthropic sun sign, okay, like a Pisces, for example, highly philanthropic, Aquarius, highly philanthropic. If they have those philanthropic sun signs, it can reinforce an 8's desire to actually take the money that they make and use it for good, okay? That's right, Carol is an 8 and she's a leader. Lord have mercy, Carol, you're an 8 Aries, okay? So I will leave it at that. That's a high leadership profile. Here's what you got to love about 8s, ready? And this is why I love them and I like spending time with them. 8s are the risk takers. 8s are gamblers. 8s are going to go for it. If you have a crazy idea and you tell an 8, they're going to be like, yeah, you should totally do that. Yeah, they are the CFOs. That's right. Maybe the 1s are the CEOs and the 8s are the CFOs, something like that. Although the 8s like to be in control. This is the profile of abundance, entrepreneurship, and grandeur. Ruled by Saturn and the Sun, elements of fire and water. I don't think I have a rune correspondence written down for this one, but I will find it for you. It says rune of power. Maybe that's Elaz. I'll have to look back at that, so bear with me until I get you the correct rune correspondence. It is the Strength card. Through and through. The Strength card represents the beautiful woman who is taming the lion. How many times have you put your hands around a lion's mouth? Didn't I just talk to you about risk taking? Do you see where her hands are? Only an 8's going to do that. An 8 is so confident that they can restrain that deadly creature that they're willing to put their hands inside the lion's mouth and pull it back open, right? Like they're ballsy. They're going to do it. And they'll take you with them. You know what I mean? 8s are going to make money in life, and a lot of times they like to share it. They like to have a good time. These stones for the 8 profile, yellow apatite, citrine, and pyrite. This is a huge solar plexus life path. So some of them align kind of fully to the different chakras, not all of them. This one does align to the solar plexus for sure. The oils are patchouli and cinquefoil, because again, those are oils of power. And prosperity. Now, they do have a little bit of a shadow around sometimes being ruthless. There's a little bit of Machiavelli in this profile, like means to an end, okay? So sometimes they can be a little ruthless in the sense of caring more about things than they care about people. That's a little bit of the shadow. And so what their need is, more than anything, is they need to activate that sense of empathy. They need to understand that people aren't just there to serve them or there to support them or there to execute against goals that are set for them. People are there to be teachers, and there to be lovers, and there to be artists. And the 8 has to make space for all of that. It's interesting, right? Yeah, Valerie says her son is an 44-8, and he tries everything. They're a little fearless. It blends well with almost every astrological sign. I will say that the 8s sometimes have to just be careful because they're so willing to go and try anything that they can get themselves into trouble. But like I said, that's fun. If you have an 8 friend and you say, hey, I want to go for a hot air balloon ride, or hey, I want to go hike, to the top of this mountain, or hey, I want to go open a restaurant, or whatever, 8s are going to be like, let's do it. Let's do it today. I'm ready to go. Which, Carol, I think you understand that really well. They also sometimes have a need to be protected, especially 8 women really want their partners to show up, particularly if they're in a heterosexual partnership. They want that masculine energy to show up in a form that is protective. And so even though they are the ones taming the lion, they also want someone behind them holding them. Does that make sense? They don't really want to wear the pants in the family kind of thing. They sometimes do. They can be the primary wage earner. They can be the insurance holder in a relationship, but they still want, right? And Nicole says, I'm an 8 and screw all that. They still want to be held. They still want to feel like they're not the only ones who are in control. They don't want to feel like they always have to be on, that they always have to be the ones taking the first steps. And they kind of like it too if people will plan things for them. Because they're risk takers and they're outgoing and they want to go and do, sometimes they like it if you say, hey, why don't we go over here? Or hey, why don't we try this? Or, and they'll say, oh, how fun that somebody else came up with an idea. Because usually they're the ones who instigate, right? Very social profile. Very successful profile. These are not people who are going to live their life in poverty. They're just not, because they know how to do it and they know how to make it, and bless them for it. Number 9, the shaman. My brother's a 9, and he's like the truest 9. He would never call himself a shaman. He's not even an intensely spiritual person, but all 9s are shaman. And by shaman, what I mean is someone who works closely with forces of nature to transform reality. And so whether they do that through, my brother does it, he's a very passionate vegan cook. And so one of the ways he activates that energy around, transformation and shamanism and connecting with plants and connecting with medicine is he does it through food, okay? There are many doctors with 9 profiles. Many, because again, they're attracted to understanding medicine and treatment and how to work with the earth to improve the human condition. They're very concerned about the human condition. And so let's talk about keywords with number 9. Humanitarian, philanthropist. These are the people, if you gave, and I really want you to hear this on this one, because this is one of the things, I admire the 9s almost more than anybody. You know why? Because for most 9s, not all, okay, but for most 9s, if you gave them $1 million, they'd probably get half of it to charity. I've never met a 9 who really wanted to have much. My brother's a prime example. He has rented all his life, rented apartments, rented houses, even though he could afford to buy something. And do you know what his rationale was? He doesn't think it's appropriate to say that we own anything. We all live on Mother Earth. We're all renting anyway. And he doesn't want to be a burden to people in his later years and have to have somebody sell a house that he lived in, or, they're like self-contained, and they don't want to leave a heavy footprint on the earth because, again, they are the shaman, they're the philanthropist, they are in some way what we all want to be. When I look at my brother and I see how tenderly, he walks upon the planet, it makes me want to cry sometimes. He's that conscious. I've never had actually anybody say, I could afford to buy a house, but I'm not going to because, let's be real, we don't own anything anyway, right? It reminds me of in Hawaii how all of the beaches in Hawaii are public because the Hawaiians believe that those beaches belong to everyone. And so you're not allowed to own a beach. You can own a home, you can own a piece of property, but you can't own a beach. And so the essence of Hawaii to me is so 9 in that way. It's like, good night, Teresa. Those of you who are signing off, just giving you a big hug and a kiss if you have to go. We're almost done, by the way. Keywords here: renewal, lack of material attachment, rebirth. These are the humanitarians, as I said. They're deeply romantic, even though a lot of them are unpartnered. This tends to be the most solitary of all the signs, especially if they are Libra, because Libra is the sign of unpartnership. Libras are often very happy being single and without children, in fact. Libras don't really feel like they came here to own anything or create anything permanent. Libras really like to have that ability to move and be free. They don't want to be contained or constrained. And so Libra is going to be a really powerful reinforcing energy for 9. And Aries, who's a 9, is going to be able to create and manifest through that energy of selflessness and philanthropy, which is really powerful. If you're a 9, I truly just to you, because to me this is the high spiritual profile. The oil is sandalwood, the herb is angelica. That should not surprise you. Sandalwood is the most important essential oil for prayer, meditation, and angelica is deeply protective and nurturing, and so those are the herb and the essential oil correspondences. A Leo 9 is probably going to have an internal power struggle because the 9s don't want to own, they don't want to attach. Leos like to own, and Leos like to attach. And so there could be just a little bit of an internal struggle. No, Valerie, it's really interesting. My brother never married. I'm 44, so that means my brother's turning 55. He's a Libra at the end of next month, and he didn't want to attach. It's so interesting. And yet he's got the most beautiful spirit. He's the most amazing uncle to my children, by the way, because he just swoops them up. He teaches my daughter how to cook. You know, he plays with my son. He has all this. He's a computer scientist. His expertise is in virtual reality, so he has all of his virtual reality equipment, and my kids get to play with it. I mean, there's nobody better with children, and yet most 9s don't have them. It's very interesting, right? Okay. The stones are turritella agate, snowflake obsidian, and celestial quartz. The celestial quartz is that stone of the last life path. Celestial quartz is some of the oldest quartz on the planet, and it's the teacher form of quartz. Like Tibetan is the healer of the quartz family, celestial is the teacher of the quartz family. And so that's why, isn't that interesting, you guys? So many 9s without kids. What is the shadow of the 9? So 9 teaches us about rebirth. That's what shamans do. How to iterate yourself, how to heal yourself, how to retrieve the parts of your soul that have been traumatized, damaged, or lost over the course of your life. But guess what 9s need most? The work that they need to do. They actually need to be reborn. And because they don't choose to experience birth very often in their life, not to say no 9s have children, a lot of them don't, they actually need to experience birth on some level. And so for them, it's going to be birth of the evolution of their spirit, which I think is really, really, really beautiful. And the rune for number 9 is Jera, which is the rune of the harvest. And it's interesting because that's the rune of the gifts coming to you. And isn't that who should get them? The most selfless people on the planet, to me, are the ones who should be gifted and gifted and gifted and gifted. But of course, that's a 110 talking. I have a service profile, right? But I truly believe that the 9s are the ones who deserve all the credit because they're here so selflessly giving that I think a lot of their medicine is around being able to be reborn and receive. And you guessed it. Bam! What does the Hermit do? The Hermit walks ahead of you and lights the way. The Hermit walks ahead of you and lights the way. The Hermit ensures you never have to walk in darkness. Isn't that beautiful? That's the medicine of the Hermit. You never have to walk in darkness because they are there, just like that. And that's my brother and every 9 I have ever known, truly. I know, I love it so much. I wrote a beautiful blog a couple of years ago about the Hermit card and my own interpretation of solitude. So if you ever want to go back and dig that blog up, you might, if you like the Hermit card, you might really enjoy that. Let's talk quickly about 11 and 22 because we need to finish at 7 Pacific time. And like I said, we will pick up with part 2 because I'm sensing you guys are into it. And so we'll schedule that for September, a part 2 for you. Isn't that interesting? I love you guys. It's very interesting. Oh, the rune for number 9, J-E-R-A, Jera. The rune of the harvest. Yeah, G. Johnson's asking, is there a relationship between neighboring numbers? Sometimes sequentially with lifetimes. Sometimes. But not always. What I see is souls sort of bumping around, and then souls coming in to live a 1 or coming in to live an 8 and not fully showing up to the work of that lifetime and then having to come back and iterate again. As an example, My mom, I would say, is one who will probably, hard for me to judge, but she's a 6, and she's taking that healer energy a little bit to the martyrdom side, and so she'll have to work through some of that karmically, is my guess. And so you watch people go through these lifetimes, and whether they agree to sort of show up fully to the work of their life path is a choice, right, in all things. It's not to say you're not human, you're not going to make mistakes, you know what I mean? But when you see a 6, for example, devolve from healer to martyr, it's a flag, right? When you see a 1 go from a leadership model that's of service to humanity to a selfish leadership model, that's a flag. When you see an 8 who makes all that money but doesn't use it to advance the causes of humanity, that's a flag. And so it goes. Okay. And so I'm going to go quickly through 11 and 22, and then Kelly, can you clarify that question? A 9 house. If you're asking about astrology, we can always come back and do astrological correspondences too. I'd be happy to do that for you. Okay, number 11 is the profile of the master healer. Even though it's a 2, it's a master healer. Okay. Number 22, master builder. 33, master communicator. Can we do this again? Ready? 11, master healer, reduces to a 2. 22, master builder, reduces to a 4. 33, master communicator, reduces to a 6. Okay? Houses and numbers. I'm not sure, I can come back to that, so I just know I see your question and I'll come back to that. Now, 11 has a tarot card. 22 does not, because there are actually 22 major arcana cards, but because the Fool is 0, the major arcana ends at 21 with the World. You guys know that, right? So if you're an 11, your card is Justice. And ain't that the truth? 11s are here. They are the visionaries. They have Christ consciousness. There is a naturally embedded sense of Christ consciousness in the 11 profile. They are the visionaries. They are the ones who are here to change and shift our planet, and they have a huge responsibility, particularly the 11s, to help us collectively evolve toward our broader mission. When you talk about hero's journey, the 11s are the most profound heroes of numerology, and they have the hardest work to do. How many of you are 11s? I'm very interested in that. Interesting, Carmen says she's drawn to Ma'at because of justice and balance. Of course, Ma'at is the Egyptian goddess who represents justice and balance. She doles out your afterlife rewards and punishments based on how you lived your life. So it'd be very interesting. It's interesting for me to know that as an 11 you're drawn to Ma'at, which would be, Ma'at as a goddess would be the corresponding goddess in the Egyptian pantheon to the 11 major arcana card. Look at that. Okay, qualities of the 11. They are the messengers. They are wide open channels. They are full of compassion. Their gemstones are watermelon tourmaline, blue kyanite, and leopard skin jasper, which of course is a shamanic stone of total transformation, spiritual healing. I don't have a rune correspondence for this one either, so I will have to get that for you. The oils are olivinum, opoponax, and vetiver. And did you know that actually vetiver is the essential oil that aligns to the justice card in the major arcana, which is so interesting. Okay. Remember that the 11 reduces to a 2, so your cards are both the Justice card and the High Priestess. I want to make sure I mention that to you. Associated with air element, Neptune, and Mercury for the Master Healer profile of the 11-2. And then the 22s, let's talk about qualities there. Bridge builders, the alchemists. If you're a 22 and you're a Master Builder, you are an alchemist at heart. You know how to take the base metals and transform them to gold. It is the genius profile. The 22-4 is considered to be the genius of numerology. They are visionary, but it's because they are so intellectually gifted. These are usually people who have an IQ 150 and above, tend to be aligned with that 22-4 profile. And here's what's really crazy. This is another profile to be jealous of. You ready? 22s are able to speak things into creation. They are so connected to the vortex of energy in the universe, which is really a well of creation. We should have another session talking about that. There is a vortex of creation, and if you know how to tap into it, you can literally speak things into becoming. You can speak things into reality. 22s know how to do that. almost naturally, even as children. The oils are cedarwood and honeysuckle. The herb is vetiver. The stones are hematite, amazonite, and petrified wood, again because they're master builders. And then we have Saturn and Jupiter as governing planets, air and water as governing elements. Okay. Shadow. I'm going to leave it with shadow, okay, for these two, and then we will pick this up when we come back. It's interesting, right? No, there really is. I mean, and that could be a whole session. We don't talk about this too much, but there really is. There is a well of energy that surrounds you, and what you do is you pull that energy out and you start to form it. There are whole manifestation exercises because the universe is sort of like this blank slate waiting for you to create and call things into being, speak them into being, almost to the point where you can feel them and smell them and taste them and touch them. You know, it's like when you're trying to manifest a new car and you imagine driving it, or you're trying to manifest a new relationship and you imagine laughing with this person and loving this person and touching this person and kissing this person. And 22s just know how to do that. The rest of us just sit around and go, how do I manifest? And the 22s are like, are you serious? It's almost like they just know. The shadow of the 11 is that they need to make sure they are constantly connected to a higher source. The unevolved 11 can end up an atheistic profile, not believing in God. In fact, almost not believing in anything. If they have bad spiritual experiences, especially too much proselytization and being forced into institutionalized religion, they can rebel. And so one of the things the 11s need to do is make sure that they are constantly plugged in to that higher spiritual source. Miriam says, I'm 22, but with the 4, you said they need to finish what they do. Yeah, well, so 22, for finishing, what finishing means for a 22 is completing your vision of what you want to manifest. That's the difference between a 22-4 and a 31-4, for example, okay? Because the 22 is that master builder profile. So for you, it's about completing the work of manifestation, which may not be completing the actual physical thing, but it could be completing your own personal vision, right? So interesting. Well, and so sometimes what you have to look at with your life path is where you are in your development with it. Okay, and keeping in mind that each profile is very complex. There's so much to tell you, right? Like I'm kind of giving you the very surface level. There's a lot more to it. And so you might consider just continuing to expand and learn. Tune into the second session because we'll go a little bit deeper into each one as we come back and revisit and see if there's additional qualities that resonate with you. Okay. Shadow side of 22, are you ready? I'm going to leave you with this for tonight. Oh, and the shadow side of 33, let me tell you that too. Shadow side of 22. Sometimes the 22 is so gifted at manifestation that they believe they can control any outcome. Okay? If ego gets involved in 22's spiritual work, sometimes they need to learn that they can't control everything. Okay? So you want to, 22s need to make sure that they are in alignment with their spiritual path. Because their manifestation gifts are so profound, they can sometimes start to get sort of a God complex, and you want to avoid that. So that's the shadow, okay? The shadow of 33 is, you don't always have to say it. 33s are the master communicators, but they communicate in a lot of different ways. If you're a Gemini with a 33-6, you probably talk too much. If you're a Libra with a 33-6, you probably talk too much. And so the other shadow is, the work that you have to do is recognizing not everyone is going to hear what you have to say. Not everyone is going to hear what you have to say. Very interesting. Is Trump really a 22? It's very interesting, isn't it? Especially in light of what I just told you. Yeah, so Lakeisha, did you get in trouble for over-communicating or talking too much or sharing your opinion too much or being domineering or being controlling? Like, was any of that coming up around that for you? It's very interesting, right? Isn't that fascinating? Woo-hoo-hoo. All right, do you guys feel good? I hope this was like a big juicy meal for you with like a really yummy appetizer and then a beautiful main course and like a fun dessert. I hope you feel like you had a really full meal. I'm going to come back to you in September for 2.0 with, and I'm not going to be coughing or having incense problems. But at that time, we will do a quick review of the life paths with maybe some additional information that might be helpful to you. I'll be following up with memes for every single one of the life paths up to 33. I'll be posting those in all of the groups, Holistic Healer, Sabbatical, Arrow Magic, and Gemwise over the next week so that you have access to those. You can download those, save those, share those with people you know and love. And then the other part of 2.0, because I didn't even get there tonight, the reducing numbers. Holy, holy, holy. Probably have another hour and a half to go, kids. Yeah, after retrograde, when I get back from Denver, is when we will do 2.0, okay? Thank you guys for being with me tonight. I had an absolute blast with you. I'm so grateful for your presence. I'm grateful to have you in the classes. I did tonight as a gift for you to say thank you for being on this really fun learning journey with me this year. I hope that you're enjoying it. I hope it's adding to your life. I hope it's bringing clarity and a sense of peace to you. And so there's so much more to come. Lots more bonus sessions throughout the rest of the year. But it's every time we do one, I feel like it's this really important chance for us to connect on a different level, and I love that. Stones for 9, someone said I forgot them. I mentioned them, but I'll say it one more time. Stones for 9, Turritella agate, snowflake obsidian, and celestial quartz, which is the teacher of the quartz family, which aligns with 9 because they are the spiritual teachers in many ways, 9s and 7s. Your notebook is full. I did my job. All right, you guys, I will see you very soon. Enjoy your evening with lots of love from my heart to yours. Thanks for your patience again, too. I appreciate it. We'll see you soon.